Hi, Reddit. I'm Mike, I'm 34, and I'm the idiot who thought smart revenge heals the soul. Let's start from the beginning. My name is Michael, but everyone calls me Mike. My ex-wife's name is Jessica. We met in our second year of college in 2011. I was studying computer science, she was studying marketing. Typical story. I helped her with Excel, she helped me not look like a homeless person. 2 years later we moved in together, another year later I proposed at an amusement park. She said yes to the sound of a working carousel. Cheesy, right? We got married in 2014. I was 22, she was 21. No money, no house, no plans. Just 2 diplomas and a car loan. The first years were hard. I worked in tech support for $15 an hour, she was an intern at a small ad agency. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with cockroaches. But we thought it was romantic. We told each other, once we buy a house and get a cat, then we'll be happy. I moved up the career ladder quickly. First system administrator, then DevOps engineer, then team lead at a mid-sized IT company. By 2017, I was making $120,000 a year. Jessica wasn't standing still either, she became head of client relations at an agency that worked with major brands. By 2019, we had a 2-bedroom in a nice neighborhood, 2 cats, Simon and Garfield, and plans for a house with land. No kids, she said, career first, then maternity leave. I agreed. Problems started when I looked around and realized we weren't talking. I mean really talking. We exchanged phrases. What's for dinner? Who's walking the cats? Don't forget to pay the internet. But actually sitting down and talking about feelings, that hadn't happened in 2 years. I chalked it up to routine. I thought every family lived like that. Mistake number 1. Jessica started staying late at work starting in the summer of 2019. First an hour, then 2. She said, new client, a gym chain called FlexPower. Very demanding people. I didn't think much of it. I stayed late too when there was a production deployment. The first real warning sign was Jessica's birthday in September. She said she was tired and just wanted to go to bed early. I suggested we celebrate on the weekend. She agreed. On her actual birthday, she said she was going to have dinner with her friend Lindsay, the one she'd been friends with since high school. I decided to surprise her. I bought a cake and drove to Lindsay's house to join them. Lindsay opened the door in her pajamas with the face of someone who'd just been woken up. Mike, what are you doing here? I said, surprise for Jess. She looked at me strangely. Jess isn't here today. She said you two were going to the movies. I froze. The cake felt heavy as a brick. I apologized, said I'd mixed up the dates. In the car, I called Jessica. She didn't pick up. I called 5 times in half an hour. Then she called back and said she'd been in the shower and hadn't heard it. I asked, how was dinner with Lindsay? A pause. Too long. She said, great, we went to that Italian restaurant you don't like. I asked, what street is it on? She named a street. That was the address of a different restaurant. Italian, but different. I lied and said I was just checking if she'd had too much to drink. That evening, I didn't cause a scene. I just said, okay, good night. But something inside me switched. Like a light switch. Did I stop loving her at that moment? I don't know, but I stopped trusting her. I'm not a psycho. I didn't immediately go through her phone. I decided to just observe. For 3 weeks, I kept a journal. Sounds paranoid, but I wrote down her leaving and returning times, her mood, what she wore, whether she smelled of perfume. Yeah, I sniffed her clothes. That's low, but I wanted the truth. She started going to the gym more often. She used to hate the treadmill and said yoga was boring. Now she went to the gym 3 times a week and came back with wet hair from the shower. Okay, maybe she really got into fitness. But she also bought new lingerie. Expensive stuff. The kind we couldn't afford before. I checked the credit card statement, $180 at Victoria's Secret. When I asked, who's that for? She said, for myself. To feel beautiful. I stayed quiet. In early October, she said she was going on a 2-day business trip to Chicago. A marketing conference. I said, okay, but deep down, I didn't believe a word she said anymore. I found the browser history on our shared laptop. She deleted the history but forgot the DNS cache. I won't go into technical details, but I recovered the addresses of sites she'd visited. There were hotel sites in a town about an hour away from us. Not Chicago. A town called Pine Brook. There are no marketing conferences there. There are hotel chains and restaurants with romantic dinners. I didn't go there. I didn't want to see it with my own eyes. Instead, I hired a private investigator. His name was Frank, a retired cop with a big belly and small eyes. He charged $500 a day. I said I had 3 days. Jessica was leaving for Chicago from Wednesday to Friday. Frank tracked her car. She left the house at 8 a.m. on Wednesday but didn't head to the airport. She headed toward Pine Brook. Frank filmed her pulling into the parking lot of a Holiday Inn and, 15 minutes later, a dark blue BMW X5 pulling up beside her. A man got out. Tall, fit, in a suit. He took her hand. They walked into the hotel together. Frank filmed it from a safe distance with a telephoto lens. The video was as clear as a movie. Frank also took a photo of the BMW's license plate. I checked it through a friend in insurance. The car was registered to Daniel R. Carter, 34 years old, address in a suburb of our city. I searched his name on LinkedIn. He was the regional business development manager for the Flex Power gym chain. The same client Jessica was staying late for. I had proof, but I didn't act impulsively. I decided I didn't just want to expose her. I wanted to get out of the marriage with maximum benefit. In our state, adultery doesn't affect asset division unless you can prove the lover paid for joint expenses. I asked Frank to dig deeper. 2 weeks later, he found out that Daniel had transferred $5,000 to Jessica's account for consulting services. That was a month before their first hotel trip. She'd told me it was a bonus from the agency. I kept screenshots of the transfer. That was fraud on her part. I went to a lawyer. Mr. Harris, 67 years old, had been handling divorces for 40 years. His office smelled of old books and coffee. I laid everything out on the table. Photos, videos, screenshots of the transfers, security camera footage. I had a camera in the living room, supposedly for the cat, but it recorded audio too. On one recording, Jessica was on the phone. No, he has no idea. He's so naive. He thinks I'm going to yoga. Mr. Harris looked at me and said, "Mike, do you want a divorce or do you want blood? Because if it's just a divorce, we file for asset division, and you get 60% of the savings because we have proof of misuse of marital funds. If you want blood, we go to court for emotional damages and release the video. But then she might file a counterclaim for invasion of privacy." I chose the first option. But with a condition. I wanted her to know I had proof and to be scared. I didn't want to destroy her. I wanted her to leave with empty hands and the understanding that she'd lost. I prepared everything in 2 weeks. I withdrew $40,000 from our joint account and transferred it to my separate account. That was legal because the account was in my name and I had the right to manage my own money before the divorce. I filed for divorce and submitted it to the court. Jessica found out when she got the summons at work. She called me in hysterics. "What have you done? You're destroying our family." I said, "Come home. We need to talk." She came home an hour later. I was sitting in the kitchen. A folder was on the table. I said, "Jess, let's skip the theatrics. I know about Daniel. I know about the hotels, the transfers, your lies. I have video of you two checking into a room. You can deny everything, but then we go to court, and I post the video on YouTube. Your choice." She cried. Not theatrically, really. Snot, tears, shaking hands. She said, "Mike, it was a mistake. I love you. He gave me what you didn't. Attention. Compliments." I felt alive. That hurt more than the affair. Because it was true. I had stopped giving her compliments. I thought paying the bills and fixing the sink on time was how you showed love. Mistake number 2. But the pain doesn't change the facts. I said, "You're leaving today. Take your stuff, the cats, because they love you more, and your laptop. The car stays with me, the house stays with me, the savings stay with me. You sign the agreement, and I don't release the video. You get nothing. Agreed?" she asked. "And if I don't agree?" I opened the folder. There was a printed photo from the hotel camera. Her and Daniel kissing by the elevator. I said, "Then I send this to your boss, his wife, and your mother. Your choice." She signed everything in 3 days. We divorced in November 2019. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I stayed in an empty apartment with one cat. She took the other. I thought that was the end. I thought I'd won. After the divorce, I fell into depression. Not clinical, but close. I couldn't sleep in our bed. The sheets still smelled like her. I rearranged the furniture, bought new bedding, but the ghosts remained. I started drinking. Not binge drinking, but 3 or 4 beers every night in front of the TV. I watched YouTube until 2 a.m., then fell asleep on the couch. Work saved me. I got promoted to solutions architect. My salary went up to $180,000. I bought a motorcycle, a black Honda Shadow. Every weekend I'd ride out of town and just drive on empty roads. The wind and the engine noise drowned out the thoughts. After 6 months, I tried dating. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. I slept with a few women, but I felt dead inside. One of them, Ashley, said to me, "You're a nice guy, but you talk to me like you're behind glass. You're here, but you're not here." She was right. I wasn't ready. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Susan, 50 years old, with a soft voice. She said, "Mike, you're stuck in the anger stage. You pretended to get revenge, but actually you just pushed Jessica out of your life without processing the hurt. You haven't forgiven her, and more importantly, you haven't forgiven yourself for not seeing the problem sooner." I went to her for 6 months. It helped. I stopped drinking, started running in the mornings. By April 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I felt almost normal. I even started joking at work. Colleagues said, "Mike, you're back." But everything changed in August 2020. I got a Facebook message from a woman named Chloe. Her profile picture showed her with 2 kids, a boy and a girl, in front of the ocean. The message said, "Mike, I'm Daniel's wife. We haven't met, but I know who you are. Can we meet? It's important. Don't worry, I'm not going to yell at you." I thought for 5 minutes. Then I replied, "Let's meet at the park by the lake." Saturday at 11 a.m. She came alone, a tall blonde with tired eyes. Dressed simply, jeans, t-shirt, sneakers. No kids. We sat on a bench by the water. She watched the ducks and was silent for 2 minutes. Then she said, "I know what happened between you and Jessica. I know you divorced because of her and Daniel. I want you to know, I don't blame you. You did the right thing. I would have done the same." I asked, "Why did you want to meet me?" She turned to me. Her eyes were red. "Because Daniel left me 2 weeks ago. He said he loves Jessica and wants to start a new life. Left me with 2 kids, a mortgage, and a pile of debt. I filed for divorce, but he's hiding his income. He transferred his business to his mother, withdrew money from the accounts. I'll get almost nothing, but I know he has a crypto wallet worth about $200,000. If I can prove he's hiding assets, the court will split them. I need proof, and Jessica is the key. She knows the passwords. She's seen his laptop." I asked, "And you want me to help you get that proof?" She nodded. "You hate Jessica. I hate Daniel. We have a common enemy. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. Just talk to her. Find out where he keeps his keys. She might let something slip. She's not the sharpest, I assure you." I agreed, not out of altruism, out of revenge. I thought Jessica had gotten what she deserved, but Daniel hadn't. He lost his wife but gained his mistress. He hadn't suffered. I wanted him to suffer. I texted Jessica 3 days later. I kept it neutral. "Hey Jess, been a while. How are you?" She replied 2 hours later, "Okay. I have a new life. You?" I said I was fine too, asked about the cats. She said Garfield had been sick but was better now. We texted for a week. First formally, then warmer. I felt disgusting because I was manipulating her feelings. But anger won. After a week, I suggested meeting for coffee. She agreed. We met at a Starbucks near her new apartment. She was renting a studio in a not great neighborhood. She looked okay. A bit heavier, but her hair was long, her makeup bright. She was wearing a diamond ring. I asked, "Daniel give you that?" She smiled. "Yes, we're engaged. He's divorcing Chloe, and we're getting married in 6 months." Inside, I was boiling. But on the outside, I smiled. "Congratulations. You deserve happiness." She asked, "Do you really mean that?" I said, "Yes, we both made mistakes. I, for one, didn't give you enough attention. Daniel is a good match for you. He's successful, he has a business." She relaxed. We drank coffee and chatted about nothing. Then I asked, "Have you bought a house yet?" She said, "Not yet. Daniel says we need to wait until the divorce is final. He has a lot of money in crypto, but he can't withdraw it until the case is closed. But once everything is settled, we'll buy a house in a nice neighborhood." I pretended to be interested. "Crypto? I invest a little too. Which exchange does he use?" She said, "Some weird one. Not Binance, a different one. I don't remember the name." but he keeps the keys on a USB stick in a safe. I asked, "In the safe at home?" She nodded. "Yeah, in his office. A small gray safe, combination lock. The code is his mother's birthday. 12,041,967. I memorized it." I said, "Cool. Be careful, crypto is risky." She laughed. "Daniel knows what he's doing." I said goodbye and left. In the car, I called Chloe. She said, "Perfect. Now I need you to do one more thing. Call Daniel and tell him you know about the safe. He'll panic and move the money. I'll track where he moves it. I have spyware on his laptop." I said, "That sounds illegal." She replied, "Mike, he stole my children's future. I don't care about the law." I agreed. I called Daniel the next day. He was surprised I had his number. I said, "Hi Daniel, this is Mike, Jessica's ex-husband. Don't hang up. I know you're hiding assets from Chloe. I know about the safe and the USB stick. Either you negotiate a fair settlement with her, or I go to court as a witness." He lost it, yelled, "You have no right. This is none of your business." I said, "You fucked my wife in my bed. It is my business." And I hung up. 2 days later, Chloe called and said, "It worked. He moved all the money from the old wallet to a new one. But the spyware logged the address of the new wallet. Now I can prove he controls those funds. Thank you, Mike. You have no idea how much you've helped." I thought that was the end of my mission. But no. Daniel figured out that Jessica had talked. He screamed at her. She told me later, we still texted occasionally, that he yelled, "You told your ex-husband about the safe? You idiot?" She cried, said she didn't mean to. He hit her, not hard, but across the face. She called the police. Daniel was arrested for the night. Chloe used it in court as evidence of his aggressive behavior. The judge sided with Chloe. Daniel was ordered to pay $4,000 a month in child support for the 2 kids plus compensation for the hidden assets. He lost almost everything. He had to sell his business to pay the debts. He was fired from the gym. Actually, he was asked to leave because the domestic violence story went public. Jessica stayed with him, but without money and without prospects. They moved to an even cheaper apartment. I felt satisfaction? Yes, but it was incomplete. I'd destroyed his life, but I hadn't gotten back my 2 lost years. I hadn't gotten back my trust in people. In April 2021, I met Lauren. It happened in a supermarket parking lot. She scraped my car with her old Honda. We exchanged insurance info, argued a little, then I offered to grab coffee to settle things without involving the insurance company. She agreed. Lauren was 28, a widow. Her husband had died in an accident 2 years earlier. She had a daughter, Emma, age 4. Lauren worked as an administrator at a gym. Yes, the irony, I know, another gym, but a different one. She was calm, level-headed, and didn't play games. We started dating. I told her everything about Jessica and Daniel. She didn't judge me, but she said, "You did something cruel, Mike." I understand why, but cruelty breeds cruelty. Be careful. We moved in together 4 months later. Emma called me, Mike with the big car. I bought her a bike. We became a family. Not perfect, but ours. In November 2021, I got a letter from Jessica. Not email, paper mail. She wrote, "Mike, I'm pregnant. By Daniel. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. We have no money. He's not working. I'm freelancing to get by. I know you hate me, but I had to tell you. Maybe someday you'll forgive me. I'm sorry for everything. Jess." I didn't reply. I showed the letter to Lauren. She said, "Don't get involved. That's her life, her choice." I agreed. But a month later, Jessica showed up at my house. She stood at the gate and cried. I went outside. She said, "Mike, Daniel left. He said he doesn't want the child. He moved to Idaho to live with his mother. I'm alone, pregnant, without a job. Could you help? Just a little money?" I said, "No, you chose this path." She screamed, "You ruined our lives. If you hadn't told Chloe about the safe, we'd be fine." I replied, "You ruined our marriage when you fucked him in my bed. Don't shift the blame." She left, but I felt like shit. I gave Lauren $500 and said, "Transfer this to her anonymously through PayPal." Lauren said, "You're too kind, Mike." But she sent it. In February 2022, Jessica gave birth to a boy. She named him Daniel Jr. Daniel Sr. didn't acknowledge paternity. She sued for child support. The court ordered a DNA test. It confirmed he was the father. Daniel was ordered to pay $600 a month. He didn't pay. He had no job. He lived with his mother and nursed his grudge. I was living peacefully. Lauren had officially moved in with me. We were planning a wedding for summer 2022. Emma started kindergarten. I felt like life was coming together. But in March 2022, something happened that I couldn't have foreseen. Daniel came back. Not to Jessica. To me. He showed up at my house at 11 p.m., drunk. Banged on the door, yelling, "Come out, you bastard. You ruined my life." I called the police. They arrived 15 minutes later. Daniel was already gone, but he'd left scratch marks on the door from his keys. The police said without witnesses or video, they couldn't do anything. I installed cameras around the house. Lauren got scared and said, "Mike, maybe we should leave?" I said, "No, I'm not running from that asshole." It was quiet for 2 weeks. Then I got a message from Chloe. "Mike, Daniel threatened me on the phone. He said he'd kill me, you, and Jessica." I filed a police report. "You should too. He's clearly unhinged." I filed a report. The police issued a warning. It wasn't enough. In April 2022, I came home from work and saw that the living room window was broken. No one was inside, but a note was left on the table. "You're next." The handwriting wasn't Daniel's, too neat. I showed Lauren. She cried. She said, "I can't live like this. Emma is afraid to sleep alone. We're leaving, with or without you." I gave up. I sold the house in 3 weeks, lost $20,000 on the quick sale. We found a house in Oregon in a small town called Bend. It's quiet there, mountains, a river. Lauren found a job at a local daycare. I switched to remote work. We left in May 2022. The first months in Oregon were heaven. We bought a house on half an acre. Emma got a puppy, a golden retriever named Buck. I started woodworking in the garage. Lauren embroidered in the evenings. We lived like a commercial for an insurance company. I almost forgot about Jessica and Daniel. Almost. Sometimes I check her Instagram via incognito tab. She posted photos of her son. The boy looked like her. She wrote, "My little angel." No mention of Daniel. I didn't know if they were together or not. I didn't care. In September 2022, Lauren said she wanted to have a baby. With me, I was thrown. I wasn't sure I was ready. But she said, "Mike, you're 33. I'm 29. If not now, when?" I agreed. We started trying. 2 months later, she was pregnant. I was happy. For the first time in 3 years, I felt hope. In December 2022, I got a letter from Chloe. She wrote, "Mike, I got remarried. His name is Tom, he's an engineer. The kids love him. Life is getting better. How are you?" Daniel, by the way, resurfaced. He's living in Nevada, working as a taxi driver. Jessica sued him for unpaid child support. He's facing jail time. Be careful. I replied, "Congratulations. I'm doing well too. I'm in Oregon. Daniel won't find me." How wrong I was. Yesterday, April 15, 2023, I was sitting in the living room watching football. Lauren had gone with Emma to visit her friend. She lives 20 minutes away. At 7 p.m., I went out to take out the trash. And I saw a dark blue Ford with Nevada plates. It was parked across the street, about 50 meters from my house. I recognized the car. It wasn't the same BMW Daniel used to have. But I recognized the license plate. I'd memorized it when I checked it through Frank 2 years ago. He'd changed cars but kept the old plate? Or was I mistaken? I took out my phone, zoomed in, and photographed the plate. Went inside, checked my old messages with Frank. Same plate. NV8472T. It was him. My heart started racing. I called Lauren. I said, "Don't come home. Stay at your friend's. I'll call you when it's safe to come back." She asked, "Is it Daniel?" I said, "I'm not sure. Just do as I ask." I called the Bend police. The dispatcher said, "If he's not breaking the law, we can't do anything. He's allowed to park on the street." I said, "He threatened to kill me last year in another state." She replied, "You need to contact the police in that state and get a warrant. This is not an emergency." I hung up. I felt like a trapped animal. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. Walked up to the car. It was empty. No one inside. I photographed the interior through the window. A sleeping bag and empty energy drink cans on the back seat. He was living in his car. I went back inside, locked all the doors, drew the curtains, started writing this post on Reddit. It's now 2 a.m. I'm sitting in the basement because from here I can hear if someone tries to open a window. Lauren and Emma are at her friend's. I haven't slept in 19 hours. The police said they'd send a patrol car, but they drove by 2 hours ago and didn't see anything suspicious. Daniel's car is still there. I don't know why he came. Does he want to talk? Kill me? Just scare me? I don't know. I'm calling my old lawyer Harris tomorrow morning. But right now, I'm just waiting. Update, 8 hours later. Morning, I'm alive. Daniel didn't try to break in. But when dawn broke, I looked out the window and saw him standing by his Ford, staring at my house. Just standing, not moving, like a statue. That was scarier than if he'd been banging on the door. I called the police again. I said, "The man who threatened to kill me is standing outside my house." I have a copy of the police report from Nevada. The dispatcher said, "Stay inside. A patrol is on the way." 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. They approached Daniel. I watched from the window. He didn't resist. He just put his hands up. 5 minutes later, one of the officers came to my door and said, "Mr. Michael? We have a warrant for his arrest from Nevada for violating parole conditions. He was on parole for unpaid child support. We're taking him in. You're safe." I exhaled. I asked, "Did he say why he came?" The officer said, "He said he wanted to talk. That you destroyed his family and he wanted an apology. We didn't press him. Go to the station and file a harassment report." I went, filed the report. Daniel was taken to Nevada. He faces up to 6 months in prison for violating parole, plus a new charge for stalking. Lauren came home. She said, "Mike, I love you. But if you don't stop playing these games with the past, I'm leaving. I don't want my daughter growing up in fear. We're moving again, to another state. And you're blocking everyone, Jessica, Chloe, even your lawyer. We start a new life. Agreed?" I agreed. "We're already looking at houses in Vermont or Maine. Far away from everyone." Jessica? I found out from Chloe, yes, I know I promised to block everyone, but I couldn't resist, that she lost custody of Daniel Jr. Child Protective Services took the boy because she left him alone for 8 hours while she went to a job interview. The boy is now in foster care. Jessica is fighting to get him back, but she can't afford a lawyer. She's facing termination of parental rights. Chloe? She's happy with Tom. She said to me, "Mike, you did a good thing, even if you didn't mean to. Thank you. But now forget all of us." I'm trying to forget, but every night I wake up and look out the window to see if the dark blue Ford is there. We're selling the house. Already found a buyer. Moving to Vermont, to a town of 2,000 people. Lauren already found a job at the local school. I'll work remotely. Emma is excited to have her own room with a balcony. I'm writing here for the last time. Thank you to everyone who read this. If you've been cheated on, just leave. Don't take revenge. Don't try to prove you're smarter. Don't play detective. Don't destroy other people's lives, even if they destroyed yours. Because in the end, you'll destroy your own. I lost my house, my friends, some stopped talking to me when they found out how I set Daniel up, 2 years of my life and my peace of mind. I gained paranoia, insomnia, and guilt over a child who is now growing up without his mother. Revenge isn't sweet. Revenge is acid that eats away at the container that holds it. Good luck, everyone. Take care of yourselves and the people you love. Mike. P.S. If you recognize yourself in this story, no, you don't. All names have been changed. But if you are Jessica or Daniel and you're reading this, forgive me. I forgive you too. Let's just disappear from each other's lives forever.